Have you ever been so nervous that you feel physically sick and all you can think about is the fear? For example, riding in front of someone that you know doesn't like you, or doing a test that is new to you, or getting on a horse after you've fallen off. So fear is the illusion that we build up in our own head that something is going to go terribly wrong, and we start thinking about all these different scenarios. But most of the time when we do it, it is never as bad as we think it's going to be. So I have had a lot of fear in many different areas around in my life, and I think the original reasons where it originally comes from is when I was younger, things would happen, I wouldn't know how to deal with them, and I wouldn't be able to say that's just one of those things that happen, and I kind of harboured those feelings. And then as I got older, I didn't really realise that I was holding on to them. So when I was going into new situations, for example, like public speaking, I was holding on to this thing, like the inner child of me was like, what if people laugh at you? Or what if you stumble? What if you make a mistake? Instead of having that emotional intelligence of it doesn't matter, everyone makes mistakes and that's normal. I was kind of still stuck in my childhood self. So I used to avoid fear because it didn't feel very nice, and I just thought I could get through life without having to address it. But when I started to change my mindset around, I started to realise that fear is so necessary, and it's not a bad thing. And the more we try and run from it, we then don't push ourselves and we don't grow. So when I started to do things that were tricky, I just accepted that I was going to be nervous. I didn't think that I was weak because I felt nervous. I just thought actually it takes a lot of courage to still do things even when you feel the fear. And then from that, I started realising that I can still do these things even if I'm fearful, and I can keep pushing myself forwards. And the fear doesn't really ever go away. I think you get used to one area and then you feel more comfortable in it, and then you push yourself into the next kind of stretch zone. But that's okay, and that's part of life, and it's always just progressing and changing and moving forwards. Another thing that's really helped me is to starve fear of its oxygen, which is time. So the longer we leave something, the more we build it up in our heads and the more we kind of mull over it and work ourselves up. So if I'm nervous about something, I really try and deal with it as quickly as possible. Otherwise I know that I'm gonna might talk myself out of it. So for example, if I fell off a horse, I would try not to leave it ages until I got back on that horse. As long as I hadn't injured myself and it was safe to do so, I would get back on, even just to walk around. You don't have to then go and do what you were doing, but it's good just to sit back on, because if you leave it too long, the mountain is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So try and just starve it of the time and get going again. Another thing to touch on, and I used to do this all the time, is don't compare your fear with other people's, because everybody has been through different experiences in life, a different journey, and we all react differently to certain things as well. So even if you've had a similar experience happen, you could react completely differently to somebody else. So really important that you don't compare your struggles, your fears to someone else's, because we're all different. So let's keep this rider friendly, and I'm going to tell you a story time. So this one is around moving up a level. It's when I did my first ever Grand Prix, and I was already nervous about it because I checked my times, and Carl Hester he followed me in. So I knew I was going to be in the warm-up with him, and I was like, it's going to be like a mini Olympics on a Sunday afternoon. And anyway, on the way to the show, I was nervous, as it is, because it's a big thing. So I got so stressed, I actually had to get in the back, and I was sick, I think twice. But anyway, I was stressing. I was thinking, what if I make a fool in front of him? What if I go wrong in the test? What if I forget the test? And I was just stressing out about all these different things. Anyway, I got to the show, and then the minute I sat on the horse and started getting going, I felt better. And then after I'd done it, I just felt on top of the world. Felt like I had achieved something amazing, which I had. It was the first time I'd done a Grand Prix. So it's just to kind of make you guys know that it's normal to get nervous, but to keep doing it anyway. So the reason I originally started changing my mindset around is because I knew that it was having a massive effect on the horses. So all the fears, all the struggles and insecurities that I was feeling were feeding through to the horses. So I knew that I had to make a change for their happiness and also for our performance. So something that I really struggled with was riding in front of people that I thought didn't like me. Or sometimes even knew didn't like me or had said things about me. I found that so difficult because in my mind I started going through all these different conversations of what are they thinking, what are they saying, oh that wasn't very good, they'll be judging you about that. And that really took away my attention from riding the horse. So it definitely took time, and I'm not going to sit here and say you'll get it in one. But yeah, firstly, don't stress out if it does affect the horse, because although it's not ideal, you've just got to keep working at it and moving forwards. And as long as you're actively trying to move forwards from it, that's all that matters. So yeah, the things that have helped me is, for one, remembering that I'm focusing on the horse. So I want to give the horse my attention, I want to nurse the horse, I want to look after them and try and keep my attention on that. And also it's perspective, realising that often it's what we think those people are thinking about us or saying about us, it's often not reality, and we build up our own head. And even if they have said something, that's their problem, not mine, and kind of keep your truths close to home, and that really helps me. So another fear that you can have, and I also I'm actually dealing with at the moment, but luckily I have enough knowledge now that I can, and it's quite a subtle one, is the fear that you're not reaching your expectations, the expectations you put on yourself. So for example, I've got a horse at the moment, a 6-year-old, and he is absolutely incredible, really, really talented. And I can often think, especially when I'm on the talented ones, I should be doing this by now, I should be able to get this now, the horse is good enough, why is it not happening? And we're having a little bit of a tricky time at the moment, where we're changing over from being a baby young horse now to progressing to be more advanced. And I'm in that stage now where I'm sort of doubting, is this right? Am I on the right path? Are we doing the right thing? And that can be so hard, and it can just be really deflating and kind of put you off wanting to continue, wanting to keep pushing forwards. But I think what I always remember when I'm struggling with this is perspective again. You have to think, just because it's tricky now, it doesn't mean it's going to be tricky forever. So even sometimes when I have a tricky week, I can get stuck in this, oh my gosh, it's going to be like this for the rest of our career. But I need to again look at perspective. Training a horse is a long, long, long journey, and you're going to have dips as well, and to not stress out about those dips. So some healthy things about fear are, one, it can push you for growth. So it can push you outside of your comfort zone, it can challenge you, and it can change you. The other thing that I really found is it makes me up my game. So for example, going into that first Grand Prix, I was nervous, so I worked harder, I prepared myself more, and I think that's what's really important to remember, is when we're fearful of something, it means because we care about the outcome. And that's an amazing thing, and that can really push us to do more and try harder. So another really important thing is who you have around you, so who you can go to if you're really nervous about something, because they can help you put it in perspective. They can also tell you about how much you've already overcome, and it's really good just to have that shoulder to lean on. So make sure that you are leaning into your inner circle and people you trust. So if you failed in something before, don't let it put you off trying again. So there are countless times that I have messed up in a test. I think the funniest one, it's funny now, it was not funny at the time, was I was doing the pony FEI test, and there were 3 judges, and it was quite a big event. And somehow my pony did a little flying change, which was not in the test. And I did a half pass in counter canter, which I didn't even know was a possible thing to do. And at the end, the judges rang the bell, and she kind of leant out, and she's like, "You do realise you did counter canter and a half pass?" I was like, "No, I didn't!" And I cried, and I was so embarrassed, and people laughed. But I went out and did another test, and I did that exact test again, and yeah, it was hard and it was a bit uncomfortable, and I definitely checked that I hadn't done a flying change. But I carried on and I kept going. So I used to really struggle with perfectionism, and so this came out when I was training the horses in a new move. So for example, doing flying changes for the first time on a horse that didn't know about them, I would get so worried that I was going to make a mistake. And the thing is, when you're teaching a horse a new move, mistakes are going to happen, because they do. But I used to build it up so much in my head that if I had a mistake, if I didn't ask quick enough or correctly, that I was a bad rider. And this used to also stress the horses out, because then when they made a mistake, they thought they were doing something wrong, and then I thought I was doing something wrong, and it all just became this big mess. But then when I learned that I have to kind of welcome the mistakes, because when you make a mistake, you can then learn from it. And I used to think that if it was going wrong, I was going backwards, but really I was going forwards, because it was that step I needed to take to move towards the success. So you just need to remember, if you want to get towards the success, that you have to fail more. So I really hope this video has helped you and encouraged you to know that fear is 100% normal. We all go through it, and it's how you react to it That's really important. But yeah, I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure to like it, subscribe to the FEI channel, and also comment what you thought. Comment what you've struggled with fear, and I will reply and get back to you.